So welcome to the All Candidates debate for the Officers 2015. So for those of you who are not aware who your candidates are, for President we have Ernesto.
Hi Ernesto.
Hello. For VP Student Life we have Maddie.
Hi Maddie.
For VP Comm we have Will and Reena.
Hi guys.
And for VP Academic we have Steven.
Yeah.
And
Oghosa. Saving the stress.
And VP Finance is Rachel Redding. Unfortunately, she is on PUI in San Francisco, so right now she's at work. So she was unable to Skype in. It's 3 o'clock there right now, so. Yeah, so just so you guys know what the format's gonna be, we're gonna go for any of the so for the positions where there's only one person, they'll be given the opportunity for 3 minutes each, 5 minutes for the 5 minutes for the president, and then after their speech, you guys will have time to ask questions. If there are 2 candidates running for the position, each of them will give their speech. Then they'll have 3 minutes to ask each other questions, and then you guys will have the opportunity to ask both or either candidate a question. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Nope. All right. Yeah.
Okay, so like during the debate period, is it gonna be like one person asking questions first, and then like the other person asks questions, or is it just like shoot questions at each other?
Basically.
Oh.
So it's an open debate between the 2 of you.
Okay.
So whoever gets the first question off starts, I guess. Okay, Maddie, the floor is yours.
I'm going to try and keep this super short. So I'm Maddie. I'm running for VP Student Life. I'm currently in 2nd year industrial engineering. Basically just a couple of plans that I have for next year is to sort of get clubs more widespread known, if that's kind of a word, but I want people to know about more than just the stuff that you hear around school, like You're Next and even engineering society initiatives. I want people to know about stuff that's external to all of that. So I want to create a website where people can search from tags and stuff like that, like leadership development and that sort of thing, and get an idea of what everything is that's available to them and make a decision based on that as to what they want to join. The other thing I want to do is create a survey that people can constantly respond to and learn from that about what people are disliking right now at school, and if they're not disliking anything, what is it that they like? And kind of have a committee meet up and go over these sort of things. And the final thing is that I want to make sure that clubs don't have an issue with budgets. So I know myself in high school, I had kind of a confusion about what budgets are and how the structure worked, what to include, and that sort of thing. And so I want to make sure that everything is really easily understood. So now I'm just going to talk a bit about my qualifications and why I think I could be suited towards this position. And so I was involved in MIE mentorship and high school this year. High school is an engineering society project directorship underneath Ryan's overseeing. And we basically work on creating events to promote high school students the idea of going into engineering. And we just aim at alleviating any misconceptions that people might have about what engineering actually is. So I think I could apply this sort of event planning into VPSL because a lot of what you do in that position is plan events and execute stuff like that. So that's what it is.
Okay. So floor is open for questions. It's for Maddie. So anybody have questions for her?
Sure. So as a VPSL, there's a bunch of directorships that you oversee, namely orientation, school cup, school community outreach, grad ball, and handball. What are your visions or goals for those sorts of for those committees? What do you want to see them do this year?
I want to make sure that these committees are able to feel like they're being really well supported by myself if elected VPSL, and that they don't have any issues with planning the event and executing it. So anything they're confused about, I want them to know that they can direct those kind of questions to me to help them out and help them answer that. I think my main goal is to make sure that people feel like they have all the resources available to them to do an awesome job in their directorship.
Anybody else? Teresa?
Yeah, hi Maggie. So for a typical engineering student, the academic life as well as the student life in quotations are very much part of the learning environment for the student, because we're all here for a degree and our academics is important. And then we have the extracurricular life that we normally stereotype as student life. However, I think it's fair to say that for the majority of the student body, the academic life really kind of dominates the lifestyle here in engineering, which kind of creates this tight-knit community that we have. So my question for you is, as VP student life, how do you see yourself kind of working with the rest of your executive team to not only enhance what we stereotype as student life and extracurriculars, but really like the academic life as well, that for the most of the student community, it dominates our lifestyle?
I see what you're saying. I think that a lot of what we get stuck in is just constantly going to classes, and we end up most of us don't end up totally enjoying our experience here because we don't have the time or feel like we have the time to take part in any of these clubs or design teams or extracurriculars and that sort of thing. So my main goal would be for people to know exactly what is available to them, so that when they choose that one thing that they really want to get involved in, they know exactly what it's about and what's available to them in that initiative. I also want to make sure that anything that people have to say about not only academics but about student life, that it's heard and responded to. So those are kind of my main goals in that regard.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Maddie. I'm Albert. We met at UTHSTC. I have two questions about the two platform points that you talked about. So I'll ask them in order. The first is a question about this online website resource that you'd like to provide for students. So the first question I have about that is regarding the CCR, the co-curricular record. Have you looked into the CCR at the faculty level, at the university level, and how that might tie into your initiative?
I've actually heard a bit about that going on, and I think that would be awesome if we could try and tie that together, because it would give students the ability to kind of work in tandem with what the faculty is trying to do with that. So I would love to work with the faculty in making that a part of what I want to see with this website database of clubs.
Okay, the second question that I have is regarding your survey question, or survey idea. Do you know what the typical response rate is for students on surveys in the engineering society?
From what I've learned in human factors, it's pretty small. Especially, just in general, responses to surveys are never what we want them to be. So
do you think that there's any other ways that you can mitigate that low response rate in sight of your vision to actually continuously improve student life?
I think that that's something that if I'm elected, I really have to sit down and think about, because surveys it's definitely a place to start, but it doesn't always answer every question, because like I just said, people don't really respond to these things. So I think what I would want to try and do is get the chairs, get the class reps, and have them voice what their fellow classmates are telling them. Because I know when my class rep says, hey, what do you guys think about this? She gets tons of responses. And I think an outside sort of thing like EngSoc, kind of asking a question, it's something that people just don't respond to. So if we could use the class reps as a platform to get responses, that might be another way to go about doing it. No problem.
Anybody else?
I'll ask a tricky question. So there's always a debate as to what's sort of called offensive or exclusive here at school. So from the recent survey that we did a census recently. There's a lot of, in general, just like concerns over the fact that school in general is very exclusive. There's a lot of drinking. Sometimes it's obnoxious and that it's offensive in some ways. What are your views on currently like some of the events that we run and how inclusive they are and how you can make them more inclusive? How can we sort of try to break down the barrier of what's called exclusive and try to make sure that everyone's involved?
Right. I see what you mean completely. I know something that I noticed when I was in first year was a lot of the time when you go out to something like SUDS or that kind of nature, you always see these same 40, 50 people there. And that's when it kind of occurred to me that, you know, there's 5,000 people in this program, where's everybody else? And I just think that that's an issue that is always going to be faced in terms of student life, because you do have people that don't really see going to these things, they don't want to. And in my opinion, I think more so than having more people show up at events, what's important is that everybody enjoys their time here. And I think a large part of that is being involved in something extracurricular, so that's why I put a lot of my focus onto that.
If anybody has their first question, anybody else? Okay. Since we do have a couple more positions to go through, feel free to ask Maddie any more questions after the debate. Thank you. All right, so VP Communications, so Reena and Will. Whoever wants to give their speech. Whoever wants to give their speech first. Otherwise, I'll pick.
Okay.
Oh, goodness gracious. Ladies first.
Canadian standoff for too polite.
Hi guys, my name is Reena and I'm running for Vice President Communications. So basically I want to improve the communication media in school to make sure that students remain informed about important events and initiatives going on here. So I have two main goals for our platform. The first one is to improve the quality of communication. Oh, sorry. So my first goal is to improve the quality of communications in terms of punctuality, in terms of graphics and serviceability. So as VP Comm, you oversee the project directors for publications like the TOEIC, schoolbook, etc. And I want to work with these project directors to make sure that they come out on time, that these publications come out on time. In terms of graphics, I want to use my graphic design experience to revamp school social media outlets such as Facebook or Twitter cover photos, profile pictures, and I want to create eye-catching school-related advertisements for events and other operations. And then in terms of serviceability, I want to work with the webmaster to improve school.ca to make it more user-friendly. In particular, the homepage and School Digest. So for School Digest, I just want to organize that into different categories or filters so that it streamlines the announcements to people's preferences. My second goal is to collaborate more with the officers. They each oversee different important operations in school, and I want to make sure that the community remains well informed and updated about these operations. So basically, I want to collaborate with them, see what their communication needs, whether that's marketing an event or improving one of the school's websites so that it meets the needs in their portfolio. So a few of my qualifications. This year I'm artistic co-director for the school book, and that's where I manage a team of graphic artists to make sure that the layout comes out on time. And I was also on the Frosh. I also worked on the Frosh handbook as a co-editor, and I'm working right now with the archivist on a grad ball video. So on each of these communications projects, I'm working in a team of people to create like some sort of publication that's going to represent school.
All right. Yeah, so just have a seat. Will?
Hi there, everyone. So by this time you've hopefully read all of our campaign pages on Facebook and have asked some of your questions. And if you haven't been doing this, then I strongly encourage you to do that soon to get a more complete idea of what each candidate would bring to the table. So I'm going to go over just a few initiatives that I have planned if I'm elected, as well as a few of the qualities that I think would make would make me an effective officer. So if I'm elected, I want to create and oversee a formalized graphics team to help our smaller clubs with their posters and other such advertisements. The team would consist of volunteers skilled in Photoshop, Illustrator, and other such software, with the primary goal being to get these clubs into such a state that they can do these things for themselves, independently of the team. I would also like to publish a rudimentary guide to student politics as a way of inspiring a greater political awareness within our membership. The guide would be posted as part of the Frosh and book with a more detailed version available on the website. Now for why I think I would make an effective officer. I definitely understand the importance of feedback, and I definitely want to seek it out, because at the end of the day, it is our membership who determines their own needs as far as communication is concerned. I'm also very passionate about improving the communications of others, as well as my own. And don't forget, where there's a will, there's a way.
All right, Will, if you want to stay up there. You guys can each take one side of the podium. Yeah, so basically, feel free to ask each other questions about what you just heard from each other, and yeah, go ahead.
Great. Well, Reena, so let's see now. Ever since I joined this school, the clubs aspect, the student life, the student life aspect has become a very significant part of my life, and as such, I would say that my campaign tends to focus on what club need. Where do you stand on clubs advertising? Do they need more of it? How would you best guide them towards what they need, or what they think that they need?
Yeah, I absolutely think that clubs need more advertisement. I think I want to encourage them to use more of our communication outlets, such as the school digest, Patino. I want to look into maybe using the projector more to advertise more for clubs. I also want to work with VP Student Life to see where these advertising needs for clubs are.
Fantastic, thank you.
So you mentioned how you want to make a first-year guide to student politics, but in the Frosh handbook, what tends to be the most visited section is the academics section. So how else do you plan to engage these students in politics by yourself?
Oh, let's see. Well, as far as that is concerned, the idea for the guide as a whole, it would be primarily a document hosted on our website as well as posted in the Frosh book. Because of that, it's definitely a more passive way of communicating through the website, but I do think that that with enough targeted advertising through our existing channel, through our existing channels of Facebook, School Digest, emails, Plasma, and class reps, that we could sort of refer back to it and maybe more proactively even hold a workshop event around it, sort of just to promote more student advocacy and to just get people more interested in their own government.
Okay. So the floor is open to you guys now. If your question is for both candidates, please state that it's for both candidates, but please direct it to one individual to start. Okay. So the floor is open to you guys. Teresa.
Hi, so this is for both candidates. Just to give a bit of context, so this was something that I was not able to get around to this year. So with the new CEIE building, the Center of Engineering, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, the faculty is looking towards releasing a book when this building opens, very similar to the school story by Richard White. And something that I was playing around was kind of creating a school documentary produced by the Engineering Society when this building opens as well. And faculty, they absolutely loved this idea, and they even offered to help supply some of the IT equipment that would be needed. And so in my eyes, I feel like this is something that the VP Communications in the future could definitely look into. And my question for both of you is, why do you think that this was an opportunity that I was excited to jump on? And two, if this was something the Engineering Society were to pursue in the future, structurally speaking, how would you go about making this project come to life?
So I'm right. Who did you want to start that? Do you care?
Let's start with you, Will, and then.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So your first question was why do I think you were interested in that?
Yeah. Why do you think that I feel it's a worthwhile project to pursue?
That's pretty easy. It's because you love history, and I think this video would go down in history because it would become part of our part of our history given enough of time. And the second part of that was,
how would you go about making this project come to life?
I see, making kind of like, yes, I do believe that it would fall under the communications portfolio because video has proven to be one of the more effective ways at reaching an audience and really impacting them. I would put together a team of volunteers, as I am asked to want to do, and just sort of have a go at doing it, and seeking feedback from the wider community and searching for actors and editors and shooters and such.
So with regards to your first question, knowing you, yes, you definitely have a keen interest in school and school history. So I think that's definitely why you'd be interested. Also because the opening of the new building is sort of marking a milestone for engineering, and sort of like the document coming out in conjunction with that makes it really, I think, important. As for your next question, like Will said, I want to gather a team of editors, videographers, and people who are interested in like writing for it, doing storyboarding. Since I figured this project might go on for years because the building's not going to be opening until like 2017, right? So hopefully there's going to be people of different years here who can sort of help continue that project until like the release.
Ryan?
Oh, hi. So this is a question for both of you. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this year the Academic Advocacy Committee made a Frosh anti-calendar that was put in the Frosh kit. And when it was being discussed at the board, one of the things that was brought up was that it could very well be integrated with the Frosh handbook that is under your portfolio. So I guess my question to you guys is, do you think there's value in working with the AAC to try and integrate the two things together, or do you think they should remain separate?
Reena, I guess you can start with this one.
I think we should integrate it together. Actually, I already think there already is an anti-calendar kind of in the Frosh handbook, but maybe we could sort of work with the Academic Advocacy Committee to make sure that more accurate information is put in the handbook.
Yeah, touching on what Reena said, there is definitely a student-written anti-calendar for all of the courses. So yes, I think it should be integrated with the handbook, just because I think it would be pretty fun to see the two differing viewpoints of the faculty and then the students, because like the faculty would provide the actual like educated presentation of how each course is structured, and then we would say, okay, so here's what you're really going to encounter in first year. And I just think that they could be integrated in a respectable way that would be funny side by side.
Urusha, and then Colin.
Question to both candidates. The BPCom portfolio is traditionally like very time sensitive in comparison to our officers. For example, if the school digest has to go out on Mondays, it has to go out, and if publication has to go out like the next day, it has to go out that day, right? So, like, what are some of your time and project management strategies that you're going to apply in order to manage your own time for your own personal projects and your directorships that you're overseeing?
Okay, Bill?
That is a tough one. Time management. Yes, I would have to say that I'd have to say that publications definitely need to come out on time, and we need to work with our editors to make sure that they do. I would almost like to. I would almost like to implement sort of a day before deadline, whereby publications would have it printable the day before it the day before the actual deadline, like by just like increasing the deadlines, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's all I've got.
So as for managing time management for myself, I think maybe I want to keep like an agenda or calendar of like everything should we do, and more like internal deadlines that I think should we do like a week before, or like have that finished ideally. As for the project directors, I want to work with them to sort of come up with a plan or timeline for their own publication, and sort of like be with them on a regular basis, like when it's starting, when you're in the middle of the publication, and when you need to have it printed so that it all comes out on time.
Okay, last question to Colin.
This is to both of them, and it's sort of funny when you look at the roles of the different officer positions as well as the different project director positions at EngSoc. The only real resource for them is on School at the CA. You'll find a little bit of a blurb on the descriptors, and then absolutely nothing in the bylaws that actually makes sense. So I'm wondering what you guys see the roles as doing, or specifically, what do you two see VPCom's role as? What is it to you?
Will?
Let's see, I think it's primarily about educating others to be better communicators, but perhaps educating is too strong of a word. I would say guiding. Yes, because we can't tell everyone what needs to be said, and there's definitely a lot of delegation taking place there. I would say that the primary role of the VPCom is to help other people communicate more effectively.
Reena?
I think that the role of VPCom is to keep school informed, whether that's through our publications or through events or announcements, stuff like that. I also see them as sort of, well, they are a project manager. They're managing all these different projects. They have to make sure that they're on time and that they're going with their timeline schedule. And also that the events themselves, making sure that the school digest gets out on Monday.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you too. If you guys have any more questions for them, feel free to talk to them after the debate or online on their events. Thanks, guys. All right, VP Academic. Do either of you want to volunteer to go first? No? Steven?
Hi everyone, I'm Steven Chu and I'm ready to be your next year's VP Academic. So in 1985, I'm just going to go with a little kind of anecdote thing. In 1985, the Coca-Cola company released a new product called New Coke. And essentially, New Coke was a reformulation of the original recipe. Now it's important to note that the original recipe, to this time, had not been modified for decades. So amongst company executives, this decision was considered revolutionary, a real game changer. Now, to their surprise, the public rejected the new product. Protesters rallied and they flooded the company's hotline. Now what does this tell us? This tells us that perhaps the clients of the Coca-Cola company understood the product better than those who provided the product. Now how can we implement this into here at the University of Toronto? Well, if we can apply this ideology to student representation, then it's very clear that we as students, as clients of the education system here at the university, deserve to have a say in issues that matter to us. Now, this is not a very new idea. That's why the Engineering Society exists and has existed for over a century. However, if elected your VP Academic, I want to take this to the next step. There are two values I really want to bring to this position. One is proactivity, and the other is activity. I will distinguish them because they do sound very similar. I would like to bring about a proactive academic advocacy structure in that I want one that, I think that we need one really, that consults students throughout the process so that we can identify issues and create solutions alongside students before problems start having detrimental effects. One perfect example of this was how the first year representatives' feedback on the new first year course, Intro to Engineering, that feedback was lost because communication systems and networks and channels with the faculty were not fully sustained throughout the process. So by not taking a proactive approach, by not maintaining these key contact personnel, we actually lost our foot in the door and our feedback was somehow lost, and now they're moving forward and it seems that it's going to be very difficult to get back in there. Now the other piece is activity. Now, the problem with student government a lot of times is that people just do not want to engage. People think, student governments, they don't do much for us, they just manage events, there's not much student representation. So I want to change this by engaging students, by actively engaging with students, and go straying and stepping away from this idea that we're going to wait for students to have their odd complaint here and there. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm gonna try and create subcommittees. Now, 1 minute, okay, thank you. Now, increasing bureaucracy sounds bad at first. However, if you can lead an effective bureaucracy and effectively manage these different individuals, you'll be able to increase engagement. One initiative I started 2 months ago was called Student Research Teams. And what this does is it aims to support student groups to tackle issues that are relevant to student life. We have over 50 members already, and we have 4 portfolios targeting infrastructure, student life, how we can make engineering society a more effective society, as well as university services. And one project that I'm really proud of that's come out was the identification of pedestrian safety at the south portion of the King's College Circle. And we're already in contact with the faculty. We have a team of 5 tackling this, and we have a meeting with a person and it's actually interesting because this issue came up at a governance council meeting a week ago. And we're going to be following up on this with a meeting on Thursday at I think 10 to 11, but that's a detail, that's not too important. But the idea is that if we can reconstruct this idea of instead of asking students what is wrong, and we ask them how can we improve things, what's important to you, what is something that you're passionate about that you want to change. This is the ideology that student research teams founds itself upon. And if we can implement this broadly into academic advocacy through discipline club reps, through other class reps, through board reps, we can really reshape how the engineering society goes about student representation. Thanks.
All right. You can have a seat in the.
Good evening. My name is Oghosa Igbinakenzua. It's a long last name. So I'm running for the role of VP Academic next year, and I'm an AD1G7. My overall theme for my platform is continuity, because I feel Ryan and previous VP Academics have done great work that they shouldn't have been left behind. The 2 main points that I aim to focus on in providing my theme of continuity. First is mid-course evaluations. Most of us are used to the system of providing feedback after a semester is over, and we don't get to feel the impact of that feedback during our time of that course. Ryan has done a good job. We're starting with providing mid-course evaluations to students so their feedback can be provided to profs or instructors who can implement it in the same semester that they're taking this course. I've been lucky enough to experience a prof who conducted mid-course evaluations herself and provided feedback to the class and implemented received feedback from the class that was implemented by her. The second point I aim to work on is providing more resources to help students with course selection. Right now, and VP Academic worked on the anti-calendar, which was primarily to provide a more faculty view on courses and services at school. I feel this is important to students, and also not just for first years, for upper years as well in terms of selecting courses. I had the problem of this with track 1, and my main source of input was from upper years comments on courses. So one way to do this would be to focus on courses.school.ca, which has a platform right now called comment section, and that can be used to receive comments from upper years, so they can have a lot of feedback, again, I use the word feedback on different courses, so you can see how people view courses that they've taken.
1 minute.
So the 3 main qualifications I see myself having to prepare me for this position, and the first one is a student representative of the UCC, the Undergraduate Curriculum Committee. As part of this committee, I've been able to work with faculty and EngSoc to promote students' views on courses such as the new course being created, APS 101, where we have provided feedback to faculty on those issues. As part of the advocacy committee, academic advocacy committee, I've been able to help out with providing resources to evaluate the main course evaluation received, as well as strategizing how we can improve student responses on main course evaluations. And finally, I've helped the ombudsman in terms of the census we're doing right now, an internal review, to see how the school community can be improved in general. So this is why I think I can be a good candidate.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Stephen, if you want to head up and so you guys have your 3 minutes to have at it.
Like question-wise? Okay. So I had a chance to visit your Facebook page and look at your campaign and stuff. I was wondering if I really agree that continuity is a huge problem in student government. You have friction, people graduating, leaving, changing roles. But I was wondering how, if do you have any ideas as to address how most people see EngSoc as mostly as a managerial organization that basically provides these events and resources so that they can engage in design clubs and other things. How do you plan to advance advocacy under VP academic portfolio?
Trying to get this question. It comes down to how you view EngSoc, what you view the role of EngSoc is. If you see EngSoc as a managerial, like managing everything, then it would be relevant to see EngSoc as going out, like reaching out to people and getting feedback from everyone. But because EngSoc is more of an overseer, this is done by EngSoc getting the discipline clubs, class reps involved, and you pass your opinions through the class reps to the students. Because having EngSoc go to classes and ask for feedback is not something that you will get a high response from. Going through discipline clubs and going through class reps to get that feedback, something I feel that EngSoc does and is doing pretty well right now, but can improve as well. Does that answer the question? Or do you?
That's good. I agree.
Okay, that's
On the same page.
Okay, well, I've answered your question. I looked at your platform, and it was to ask you what you see the role of EngSoc as, because you are aiming to provide more aggressive feedback collection systems. So what do you see EngSoc's role as is student one?
I think I think my biggest, maybe as a result of me being in first year, but from my exposure so far to the engineering society, I feel like it could be improved on the student representation piece by putting itself out there more and engaging students more. So we did talk a lot about discipline club reps and board reps and class reps, but I feel like that there could be more done. I mean, a big metric for showing that the lack of representation is that the 40 of them that have that seat on that council and have a vote to make big changes in the university, most of them don't attend, and the fact that the representatives themselves, people who run consciously knowing what their responsibilities entail under this role, are choosing not to go. You know, we're talking about people who run are already at the top, and if even they are not engaging themselves, then there's a huge engagement piece that is lacking within our society. So the way I see improving this is incorporating that ideology applied in student research teams, where going through each discipline club and having those reps run their own little committee, because that personal touch is very important in terms of work culture. And from there, we can actually further engage people. And then, again, it does build bureaucracy, but if it's managed effectively, and you add that element piece I was talking about earlier, where you're asking what can we improve, not what's wrong, then we can advance engagement in EngSoc.
Floor is open. Once again, if you ask a question, please direct it to one person to start if you're asking both. Ryan?
Okay, so I have two questions, and I'll ask the first one now, and then I'll let other people talk, and then I'll ask my other question at the end. So it's really great to see that there's two people running for this position last year, and as you guys know, I was the only person who ran last year. And it's interesting because I think that your platforms are very distinct from one another. And I think what it really boils down to is you guys are tackling one side of the coin. I feel like your platform is very much focused on the services that are very important to students, and yours is more focused on the advocacy sort of point of view in terms of talking with the faculty, trying to convey our concerns to them. So I guess my question is, why did you choose that part of my portfolio to focus on? For Stephen, why did you choose to focus on the advocacy side more? And Oghosa, why did you feel like you needed to focus on the service side more? And I guess you can go first.
All right, cool. Thank you. In my past experiences in grade 12, I was a student trustee at the Auburn Conference District School Board, and what pushed me to go pursue that role was that I was convinced that it was only through opportunities and experiences that people can grow professionally, that people can grow in terms of having this idea that they can be the change. And so in politics, when people say, you know, we can be the change, we can make a difference, these are all very big words, these are buzzwords, and most people say, oh, you know, that's a load of BS. Quite frankly, that's what happens in politics. However, it does summarize my experience very well, and I feel that people only will be able to sympathize and be empathetic towards these statements if they engage in it on their own. So my platform basically hopes to engage these students, to bring them through this process, this consultation with faculty, to actually find out that yes, the faculty does want to hear what we have to say. And through these lived experiences, I hope that not only we can engage individuals, but also build a belief that they can be the change, and to try and limit the amount of apathy in this community in general.
So the reason I chose to go with my point of view was because, one, I work with you on the mid-course evaluation, there's all the work you put into it, but also ways that can be improved. And luckily, as I said before, I got the chance to experience a prof who did this herself and managed to do it very well. So seeing your way of doing it and my prof's way of doing it, I feel I've experienced something that can combine and bring together to potentially increase the way we respond to feedback at school. So it's something I can really see improvements that can be made. That's why I chose to focus on that.
Patricia?
Question to Steven. It seems like, going through your platform, you formed this SRT, and which I think is a great idea. My question is more like, why is it VP Academic, if you're so passionate about, improving student life and stuff, why not VP student life? Why specifically academic?
Okay, thank you for that question. I feel like there's a lot of space for VPA to grow. It is a fairly new role, and it actually doesn't distinguish itself that much from VPSL, in that the academic life is actually very tied into student life as well. However, I feel that a lot of it, in terms of SRTs and that model, it does relate itself a lot to VPSL's portfolio, and I feel like the academic representation piece could be elevated really by using the resources that VPA has through the discipline club reps. Another piece that I didn't really mention a whole lot in my campaign is that the feedback piece in terms of course evals and how that feedback is implemented. Something that came up in SRTs was how can we hold the university accountable for the feedback and make sure that it's implemented in a transparent fashion to ensure that the student body is aware of how it's implemented. So I feel like that falls under VPA's portfolio as well. And that's why I've been I pushed myself to take on this candidacy for this role.
Ernesto?
So this question is for both of you. What would you say is the biggest 2 or 3 elements missing in the engineering curriculum? It can be something.
We're going to take a minute.
Sorry?
We're going to think about this.
Who do you want to go first? Yeah.
Who wants to? I don't know. I'll go.
Missing.
Yeah, it could be something as soft skills that are not properly instructed, or something more particular, like type of education. I don't know.
One thing I think is missing from my time here at UCC, we will be engaging more in applicable work, like I'm trying to find the right term, but it's work experience, I guess. Putting work experience into a student curriculum, although it's done through summer to breakthrough ECF and PUI, incorporating this into the student curriculum is something I feel this can be improved for sure. This is one thing. I guess another thing would be improving workshops. Like Teresa raised this question up when she asked me about 4 years ago when having workshops in curriculum is a thing. But I think these 2 things, workshops and increasing work experience through the curriculum, is something that can be improved.
Unfortunately, okay, I had 2 and then I forgot one, so I'm just sorry. I was trying to look for my phone to write it down, but the one idea that I managed to keep in my head is to pursue more structured tutorials. I find that the experience from tutorial to tutorial varies greatly based on the TA and how they choose to provide that educational experience. And more broadly, I mean, Teresa posted on my event page a question of, do you want a more teacher-centric education or do you want a student-centric more education? So it's, I think, kind of tying those 2 pieces together, it'd be important for us to look into how we can change how professors' teaching styles are based on the needs of students, and that would require a lot of engagement pieces and consultation processes.
Okay, last question for Teresa.
Hey guys, so this is kind of directed to both of you, and I think it's really prudent for you to be aware of how this faculty functions. So, there's an overarching faculty that kind of makes a lot of big decisions regarding the curriculum, and then there's each department and division. So, the engineering science is its own division, then you have the department of MSc, Chem, UCE, Civ, Min, et cetera, et cetera. And these departments, they actually have a lot of autonomy separate from the faculty to address a lot of local academic issues, which is where the discipline clubs come into play, and this is where class representatives and discipline club chairs have a play in academic advocacy. And I'd say over my time here in undergrad, there's actually been a disconnect in terms of how EngSoc communicates with discipline clubs, and I think it was starting with Rishi 2 years ago, who's the president of EngSoc, who really started the conversations with discipline clubs. As VP academic, should you get the position, you will be in a position of leadership, and this means that, you know, as a leader, you're actually in service to a lot of these people, the discipline club chairs and the class representatives, because even though VP academic oversees the class representatives, like there's actually like no real reason for them to actually listen to you, right? So as a leader, you have to be able to build that trust with them. So my actual question to you guys now is, what are your strategies to communicate with the class representatives and the discipline club chairs?
All right. So again, I guess my answer for everything is making committee, unfortunately. But I think it's a more informal meeting type things that would happen regularly between class reps and discipline chairs. Now, what I would try to achieve at these meetings is that I would try and use them as a forum to share best practices. So while everyone is tackling different curriculum changes, while they are all talking to different faculty contacts, what remains the same is the different professional tools and different professional techniques and consultation practices that they use to advance their ideas, to advance student voice in these respective areas. And that would be, I guess, suppose the incentive that I can provide to try and bring the discipline club reps together.
My view on leadership is to get things done, you have to really build a relationship first before you start getting your points across. You don't just bring people and throw your points at them, because if they don't know you or know that relationship well, it's nothing going to be done. I think the discipline club chairs are very key to whatever the BPA wants to do in any of the disciplines, and I feel that's a very important part of my job will be to build those relationships with the VP of the discipline club chairs, so as to get them able to see my point of view and understand their point of view as well, so as to get points across to the student club.
Okay, thanks guys. If you guys have any other questions for them, feel free to ask them after this event or ask them online. Ernesto, you can get ready. But in the meantime, like I said, VP Finance candidate Rachel Redding couldn't be here today because she's down in San Francisco on PEY. She does have a Facebook event where you guys can ask questions, but I'm also taking any questions that you guys might have for her now, and I'll pass them along. So if anybody has any questions for her, I can take them down now. Nope. Yep.
So I've got one. So a large part of the VP Finance portfolio is organizing budgets for the coming year for all of the directorships and clubs and whatever. And a lot of those budgets have to be organized relatively early on in the summer. So since she's away all the way across the country, how does she plan to address the fact that budgets need to still be organized while she's not able to be present in Canada? Or is she planning on coming back? It's another thing I don't know.
Okay.
Hitting on that, orientation as well.
Okay. Second. Okay, yep. So you had one?
Yeah, I would like to know her experience with managing budgets and to know how she plans to use that experience in EngSoc.
Okay. Colin, do you have one? No, Teresa?
In the case that the president gets injured or for whatever reason, the president can't fulfill their role, it's VP Finance that needs to fulfill their role. And should anything were to happen to the president over the summer, VP Finance needs to step up. What's your strategy to handle that situation since she's away?
Okay. Anybody else? Incapacitated. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna pass those along to her, and you guys she'll probably answer them online on her Facebook event. So if you're on there, then you probably see them, and if you're not on there, I suggest you go to the event to find out. Ernesto, you're up.
Is Rachel a California girl?
Is that a question?
Is that a question for her?
Yes. Is she unforgettable?
That's hilarious.
Would you like me to spell that G-U-R-L or?
Oh yeah, sure. That's a good solar urban dictionary.
Go ahead.
Okay, hi. So I'm Ernesto, and I'm running for president for EngSoc for the next academic year. Some of you might have seen in my Facebook event, I have 3 main goals for next year, which are formalize student representation in standing committees, improve club affiliation and funding procedures, and increase awareness of opportunities and advocacy. Now, why do I think these goals are so important? Well, first of all, standing committees are one of our strongest tools to get the student voice heard in the faculty. As Oghosa, who taught in the UCC, knows, these committees report directly to the faculty council. So it is important that we are ensure that the right people are in the committees, and also that we ensure that there's proper channels of communication with them. So that throughout the year we can monitor what's going on, and we can ensure that the EngSoc position on issues is unified throughout the committees. Club affiliation policies and funding procedures are very important. They are at the core of our student life. We have a good system going on now, but we started reviewing in this year, and I think it's important we continue that effort next year to get a more robust and efficient system. Lastly, advocacy and awareness are key elements, as you may know. And even though our school life is pretty alive, so to speak, I do see some issues with advocacy and interest in student governance. For example, there's only 2 positions that are contested this year, which is a bit disappointing. So I think, and we also struggle a lot in the AGM and accountability meetings, so it's important that the officer team works together to identify why this is happening and what can we change to improve our strategies. But I want to make sure that you guys know that this is not the only things I'm going to be looking at or doing next year. I also want to spend time in the beginning of the year working with the officers to discuss all their initiatives. One of the things about elections is that everyone builds their own platform, and then they come together and they want to do their own thing, right? I want to make sure that we sat since the beginning and we work so that we unify our goals. Everyone will bring their ideas to the table, and we'll see how to take people's goals and unify them in common goals. I don't want a divided EngSoc team that's working on their own initiatives. Second of all, I want to ensure that there's proper channels of communication between me and and the directors I'm overseeing, particularly discipline club chairs, because the discipline clubs are very united and they have a very strong tie with their department and with their community. So I want to make sure that they are in constant communication with us so that they can support us for faculty-wide initiatives like a midterm course evaluation. And orientation. Orientation is super important, and I'm going to work very closely with our future VP Student Life and our orientation chair to make sure that orientation runs smoothly and that there's, again, proper channels of communication between the orientation chair, the officer team, and the board of directors. So I'll talk a bit about myself, so you know me, because I know many of you have never met me in person. I came to U of T in 2011, straight from Mexico City as an international student, so I don't like this weather. My involvement in school here in Canada has been, I started the Civ Club academic rep. During my term, I continued the efforts of midterm evaluation that the previous academic rep had. I changed it a bit to make it a more tailored evaluation to each course. I also pioneered the initiation of focus groups, so since I was an academic rep, Civ Club runs, together with the faculty, with the Civ department, focus groups twice a semester, once a semester, in which we bring together students from the different years to talk about what the issues are, and they proved to be very effective. And I also sat on the university undergraduate curriculum committee and the academic appeals board. Then this year I'm a PY at IBI Group, and I was the Civ, I still are, the Civil Board of Director representative, and I sat on the finance committee with Merrick and Corey, and I also sat on the academic advocacy committee with Ryan. And aside from that, I'm the president of the Canadian Electrical Contractor Association / National Electrical Contractor Association U of T student chapter. So I'm gonna finish my term as president before I come into EngSoc, so there's no overlap. And well, that's a new club that we started this year, and we're participating in We're participating in an international competition, and we are actually the first student chapter of SICA and NICA outside the US, the first one in Canada. So it's been a great experience getting together our team for the competition. There's a 25 people team, so it's a pretty large group to manage. And yeah, I've learned a lot about managing a small organization there. So I guess that's it for me, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
All right, floor's open. Yeah, anybody?
I'm trying to choose a question, guys. Ernesto, I do have questions for you, so just give me a moment.
It's okay. Yeah, let's start that. Go ahead.
I've been told that the Engineering Society doesn't involve itself with political agendas, and I've seen the current administration act on that as well. But it's been brought up to me by some people that involvement with things like the Pride Parade or Remembrance Day or the Polytechnic Institute Remembrance, I don't really know what to name that, could be considered involvement with a political agenda. So how would you address those people who say that kind of thing?
I think there's a line. One thing is to get involved in cultural and more social events. And for example, the Pride Parade, I think that speaks to equity, right, and involvement. I think when we talk about the Engineering Society not taking a stance in political matters, it's a bit more like we're not going to endorse a candidate, we're not going to criticize a particular candidate's agenda or something like that. So I think we always have to make sure that the line's there. I mean, saying that we are not going to involve ourselves in political matters, if we extend it to everything, then we're really constraining ourselves to what type of event. Like, why would remember getting involved in an event that's remembering the war heroes political? It's just a national cultural heritage. So I think the answer to that question is to explain to people where the line is. And I believe that the line is not endorsing any particular party's agenda. So I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
So as I'm sure you know, the relationship between EngSoc and SAC is very, very, very strained or non-existent.
Really?
How do you plan to address them?
Okay, so the first step is that this year we're running the referendum to ask students whether they want Engineering Society to take over their representation or not. So obviously I'm going to build on my strategy based on the outcome of that referendum. I'm pretty sure that we all know what the outcome is going to be. We can get a surprise and we'll be surprised, but in the event of the most likely outcome, which is that people are going to vote in favor of us taking over the representation, my first step is going to be to actually study the policies and background of this, because I want to make sure that I know what's governing this, what university bylaws are involved, and from there I'll take it to strike, if needed, a committee within the society to look at this and start talking to adequate people. It's probably something that's not going to be achieved in 1 year, but that's the answer. I'll start learning about how to do it.
Teresa?
So part of the role of the president is to put out fires. And I think it's extremely important that as the role of president, being an enabler for the society, volunteers of EngSoc are able to kind of do their own thing, be creative, be innovative, and that sometimes leads to them getting in trouble. And you know, I guess, yes, as president, you'll receive an email in your inbox and you'll have to deal with it. So my question for you is, you just received an email in your presidential inbox saying, please come to my office from the Vice Dean undergrad about, you know, let's say one of the directorships of the Engineering Society or orientation. What do you do?
Okay, my first step would be contact the person, because I want to, the person that's in trouble, if not prohibited by some extraneous situation, like, I don't know, they're in jail or something like that. But hopefully it's not going to be something as grave, so I'll contact them and tell them to come to my office as soon as possible and ask them what happened, right? I'll get their information from them, and then I will schedule as soon as possible a meeting to discuss the situation and take it from there. I would try to have meetings with the three parties in person involved rather than separate, because I think it's easier. I mean, sometimes issues get more escalated because people don't have the appropriate communication with the other people. So yeah, I think that's as much as I can answer. Given the vaguity of the situation, once I'm analyzing, it'll obviously depend what happened. It's a very different. It's a very different issue if what happened was because that person made a mistake, or because because it was an oversight, or if it was an oversight error on an officer of the society, then it's just going to be a bit more difficult to manage. If it's something that's a more particular atomic mistake, then it's going to be easier to mitigate. So, but yeah, those would be my first steps. Maybe have a beer afterwards.
Anybody else? Ryan?
As the president of the Engineering Society, it's your job to liaise with different external organizations, be it other college groups, staff, or most importantly, I would say the faculty. Talking with the faculty is also under the BPA's portfolio. So I want to hear from you how you would plan to coordinate with the BPA on presenting a united front for the faculty on different matters.
Well, I think that would begin, as I said, and since the beginning of the year, to set our goals and priorities straight, and to have a united set of goals and a vision of what we want to achieve, and hopefully have a set of structured plans that we want to follow through. And then the actual details of how the communication will work, I would talk to the BPA and see how he feels about them. Like, I don't mind helping the person do the contact if the future BPA doesn't have much experience talking to the faculty, but it would be much of a matter of what's more convenient for both parties. And but in terms of insurance, that's something homogeneous, as you were saying. That's something that should be addressed since the beginning. I don't want to have a midterm crisis in which the VP academic is in one direction and I'm in the other one, because that's just very hard to deal with. Yeah.
In terms of EngSoc's long-term vision, what do you see it as? How do you see EngSoc providing long-term projects and executable projects? How do you see that?
Well, first of all, I see the School Endowment Fund growing a lot. I think that the School Endowment Fund is one of our biggest opportunities to grow the amount of services, because let's face it, money equals a lot of things. So once we grow the School Endowment Fund, we're going to have access to a lot more money to provide a lot more services to students. So that's one of the first things I see. I do see EngSoc having a stronger stance, again, in academic matters, and having a stronger front of people in standing committees, more actively participating and shaping the curriculum of the university. And in terms of student life, I mean, I think the growth probably is just in numbers, more clubs affiliated, more directorships, more students involved. And in terms of governance, I definitely see a more active society. AGM full of people, 4 or 5 people going for each, or at least 3 people going for each officer. So yeah, that's kind of what I would like to see.
Okay, anybody else? Nope. Sweet. All right, thank you, Iner. Thank you, Ernesto.
Thank you. Remember the importance of being earnest.
All right, so thank you for coming out. The candidates, I guess, will be sticking around. If you guys have any more questions for them afterwards, feel free to ask them. There's online and other methods until tomorrow, and voting starts Wednesday at 9 o'clock and runs until Friday at 5. Just a reminder, the voting website is there. And yeah, so good luck to the candidates, and thank you for coming out, everybody.